Welcome back. Well, yes, I haven't taken the oath of office. Many expect so many things to kick in, but yes, there are some challenges. We all know how we want to, urgently address the security challenges, concerns that the country faces at the moment. And we do know several meetings have been held between the president has met security chiefs, I think twice in the last week or two, thereabout. But to take a look at some of these and proffer solutions as well, we've got Professor Zacharias Gundu, who is of the Department of Archaeology, Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria. He joins us on my studios in Abuja. And right beside him, you also do have Mr. Mbreza Gabasa, who is a Gwoza indigene. He's a retired civil servant. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us today on the program. A day after the inauguration, but security, particularly, we want to see that addressed. Yes, some activities have been going on, but let me start with you, Prof. You are of the Department of Archaeology. You've been taking a look at security for a while. Could you tell us, from what you've seen, the efforts that have been put in place and the kind of results that are, being made manifest, even though some say not exactly commensurate? What do we need to do? First of all, tell us what you think the specific concerns are and where we're missing it.
Well, good morning. Thank you. My take on the security of this country is quite simple. I think we still haven't got it right. And without securing this country, without convincing everybody, every citizen, that government is serious about security, we will get a lot of things wrong. Certainly the security concerns of this country, as we know it today, did not start with the present government. They started several years ago. But I think in every place where there were security issues, we didn't read it very well. Nigeria, as we know it, is sitting on a very unholy trinity. It's a trinity which is ethnic, it's a trinity which is unholy. You have the Yorubas on one leg, you have the Igbos on another leg, you have the Hausa Fulani on another leg. And when the three of them conspire, they create a situation as if every other person does not matter. In the meantime, there are a lot of grievances, most of which started in the military era, which spilled over in the past 20 years, and we have overlooked them. In the oil-producing parts of this country, there were serious agitations over resource control. We really didn't handle those agitations very well. And they come and go, they come and go. Then, of course, there were other nationalities who thought that they had been shortchanged in this country. They argued for restructuring, and no person heard them. Some of them took decisions which meant they were going forward to succeed. No person also heard them. Then we had Boko Haram. When it started, every person, of course those who were concerned, wanted Boko Haram to be treated as a terrorist organization. Government did not think it was a terrorist organization. The current government, when they took off about 4 years ago, said they had technically degraded Boko Haram, and this was all lies. We know that Boko Haram is active. We know that Boko Haram is doing a lot of harmful things, and they are even better armed than our military. Then, of course, came the herdsmen issue. And when the herdsmen issue started, it was as if those who were complaining, especially in central Nigeria, were the ones who were being unreasonable because they didn't want the Fulanis to go on with their pastoral way of living. And then we know that this issue is resurfacing in Zamfara. It is in Katsina. It is in the core north now. So I believe that we've been reading the issues very wrongly. We've been reading the issues very wrongly.
Professor Gundu,
the police themselves.
Okay, if I could jump in here, well, yes, we will come to that particular matter, but you say it's resurfacing in Zamfara, which we'll hold on to that and have you expatiate a little further on that. But when you say Boko Haram more armed than our military, many can't relate with that. How did you come to that conclusion?
Well, you know, Boko Haram started with the politicians in Borno. They didn't handle it very well. During Jonathan's time, there was a cry to look at them as a terrorist organization. He didn't look at it that way. And then when President Buhari came in, he boasted that he would degrade this Boko Haram menace. And from all indications, he has not degraded it. We know that Boko Haram is acting now in alliance with other terror rings in West Africa and even outside the African sub-region. So I think we have not handled them very well. And okay, from the way it is going, I think we are not on the right path.
All right, let me bring in Mr. Yeah, just hold on for that Zamfara a bit. We'll come to that. I need to get Mr. Gabasa's view on this one since we're talking about Boko Haram because some of the activities in Goza at the time known to a lot of people. Mr. Gabasa, give us your impression how, because I mean, as an indigene of Goza, you do have some insight into what is going on concerning Boko Haram activities there. So could you shed some light where you think, you know, we're not getting the proper reading and what we need to do?
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Boko Haram issue in Borno is just big and it's growing by the day. Every time it's becoming more scary. In Goza, for example, we have so many of our people living in refugee camps in Minawao, Cameroon. Out of 85,000 people living there, 37,000 people are from Goza. So they have all been displaced. About 49 villages and hamlets and towns were all displaced. In Goza now we have only 3 places that are habitable, and you dare not go out for any farming activities. It is only by the grace of God that people are living there. Because it's their ancestral home, they don't want to leave that place. They are bent on. But we thank the NGOs because, and the federal government too, because of the provision of food. Or else, if there's no food there, it's a problem. Nobody would have gone to stay in Goza. The other time I was there for elections. Elections could not hold in the normal places. We had to stay in two locations, Goza and Pulka. For the people that are in the eastern part of Goza, you dare not go there at all. The whole of this place has been taken over by the Boko Haram terrorists. On the mountains, because we have mountains in Goza, the Mandara Mountains, some of our elderly people, old people, traditionalists, live on the mountains. They went there and saw them, and now just took over the whole place. And some of these old people are dying one by one. No food, no proper security, no food, no medication, nothing practically.
Mr. Mbrisa,
and they're getting old.
Pardon me for butting in. You know, we're trying to understand what's going on, such that at least we could help, or maybe authorities who may need 1 or 2 information about this to also know how to proceed. So could you tell us, why do you think, in spite of all the efforts, you know, by the authorities, why do you think this is intractable?
Well, I think the whole thing is with the government because there has to be there has to be seriousness. People just think that area is just a place you can make money. You continue to send people there and nothing happens. So there is a problem somewhere with the government. There's a problem somewhere with the security. Security intelligence gathering is no more taking place. Nothing is going on. And So the best thing is we want peace in that place. We want to be treated fairly. We want justice. So what do? We have to make sure those places, those terrorists are flushed out completely. And then we have to resettle these people that are outside the country, resettle the refugee camps of the United Nations. We have to resettle our people that are so many in Abuja, in Lagos, in Taraba, in Adama, in Gombe. All of them are there. No better. You cannot, people are just scattered all over. We want a situation whereby the government will now come in with a new plan to make sure they are resettled properly. But then you have to flush all these people out. Once the terrorists are flushed out, then everything will be okay. Our people are very hardworking. Even here in Abuja, we have a mark. There is this beans market. It was opened by Goza people because they're hardworking and have been doing a lot of farm work. So we want the government to come in, flush out these terrorists, and then provide for them accommodation. It has to be done in a very good way, and we need it seriously, because our land is our land. We don't want a situation whereby people are taken to camps and kept in Maiduguri for political purposes. That place is even more than prison. The food they take is a very bad one. It's not a good one at all. They have a very terrible way of living there. By the way it is time for politics, they will be told to come and vote, and then they will be kept there. We want our people to be taken back home. We don't want them to stay in other people's land. It doesn't make sense to us.
Okay,
we are Nigerians, so we should be treated.
Mr. Gabasa, let me take this to Professor Gundu now. Professor, there have been several efforts over the past few years to deal with this issue of insecurity that's been shape-changing over the years. Do you think we've been able to track the very root of the problem, or are we just trying to resolve the signs or the symptoms?
Symptoms. Let me take you back to the Boko Haram issue. You see, the Boko Haram issue is taking place within the context of the Greater Lake Chad. There are two things around the Greater Lake Chad which I think we must understand. One of them is the ecological pressure. The ecology of the Greater Lake Chad is degrading. The Lake Chad itself is shrinking. And as it shrinks, it takes away fresh water, it takes away land, it takes away grazing land. That is one point. When you have pressure on the ecology, it's bound to reflect in so many other things, including the way human beings relate to each other. That is the first point. The second point is that in the Greater Lake Chad area, there is oil. At least the people in Niger are getting a lot of oil money, and the oil companies, international oil companies, have moved in. There is reason to believe that the international community is interested in the instability in that area, and I think we haven't understood this very well. Our borders are very porous, and people keep on coming from outside this country, armed gangs, to partner with Nigerian armed gangs to destabilize this place. And I believe that the instability in this place has an international dimension which we are not looking at it very well. If you link this up to also what is happening in a place like Zamfara, you wanted us to discuss it later, but let me just say this quick point. What is happening in Zamfara also has an international dimension. While the bandits were going to every rural area of Zamfara and trying to keep people, displace people, there were Chinese concerns in Zamfara in every single village mining for gold with their own Nigerian partners. And nothing was happening to them. Nothing was happening to them. And the security agencies knew this. Even when they say stop mining in Zamfara, no person is mentioning the Chinese angle to the illegal mining in Zamfara. And as long as we are looking at the Nigerian instability, insecurity as just a Nigerian problem, without looking at the international dimension, we are going to miss a lot of points. And I think if we miss these critical points, which are the roots of the instability and insecurity in this country, we'll just be chasing the shadows and the symptoms. And as long as we chase the shadows and the symptoms, I think we get it wrong. We'll get it very, very wrong.
Okay, but Prof, you know, there's a school of thought that says, because if you say there's an international dimension, is it the international dimension that is responsible for cattle rustling, the fight? Some say there's a school of thought that actually believes that there's something going on between the Hausas and the Fulanis as a result of some unresolved matters, which killings that have happened over years, a long time, which government authorities didn't move in on time to address, and as such, it then escalated. So they then describe Zamfara as the epicenter of insecurity in that region, because they say whatever Sokoto, Kaduna, Katsina, no matter the good work they do, that Zamfara seems to have spilled and is affecting those areas. Is it the international dimension that is also affecting or causing these spillage?
Well, a lot of people also do not seem to understand what some of these international concerns and those who are interested in Nigeria can sit down to instigate in this country. As for cattle rustling, every other person knows, particularly those who have cared to read about pastoralism in this country. The cattle rustling business started with the Udawa. The Udawa are a transhumans international Fulani group that moves across West Africa at will. And right from the Abacha times, the Udawa were harassing Nigerian pastoralist communities in many parts of northern Nigeria. Buhari, during PTF, even acknowledged this. The Udawa were very active in many parts of this country, coming from outside this country. That's the international dimension. They were in places like Gombe, and we used the Nigerian military to flush them out. Unfortunately, people don't know that the Udawa were the first Fulani group in this country to bear arms. They were also returned by many other Fulani groups to protect them. And they brought in this issue of arms. And since they brought in the issue of arms, Fulani groups and many other terror rings have been flooding into this country to destabilize this country. Mind you, there are about 84 land borders in Nigeria, 84 that are approved. But there are also about 1,400 land borders that are not approved, but are in active use. That is a ratio of about 1 to 17. That means that for one approved and known official border route in this country, there are about 17 that are not approved, but they are in use. These are the border routes that these people come in. And our president has acknowledged that they come in from as far as Libya. And he has acknowledged they're coming as far as from Libya. And they come in with weapons, and there's no way we can even try to track who is coming in and who is coming with weapons and what sort of weapons they are coming in with. Because these people are in the bush. And in the bush, there are a lot of territories in this country that are ungoverned. And as far as these territories remain ungoverned, people can come into the country from everywhere. That is why I talk about the international dimension. But remember also that there are jihadi groups in many parts of West Africa. There are jihadi groups in parts of Mali, in parts of Niger, in parts of Chad, that are interested in trying to partner with Nigerian terror rings to make sure that they destabilize this country. So the international dimension is not a dimension we should overlook. The Americans, in their own strategic studies, have also argued and claimed that Nigeria would disintegrate. And these people are a peculiar type of prophetic people. When they prophesy that something will happen, they work towards making sure that that thing happens. And we sit down in this country, people say Nigeria is going to disintegrate. We don't see their hand in what is happening in this country. We are blaming each other, and people are trying to behave as if they will just pity us against each other, and we will look at the symptoms and not look at the root cause. I think we should go deeper than what we are doing. And government has the resources to go deeper. And I'm afraid they have not gone deep in this particular case.
Well, Mr. Gabasa, concerning the developments in Goza, Borno, for instance, and all of those ungoverned areas, it's a huge challenge. We've heard security agencies consistently ask that communities and citizens volunteer information to aid the authorities. How are the communities responding to that? Because for them to have made that call, it did suggest at the time that they weren't getting enough of support from communities. Do you get that same impression?
Well, the communities have tried their best. I'm giving a credit to the communities. But then the thing is this. You have to be in a comfortable place before you can even get proper information. You cannot just go and start telling somebody. Somebody, when he sees a military man, he will think twice. So even if he's going to give any information, he's on the run. So how do you give proper information that you can sit down and, in fact, take the military to one place or the other? And that's another part of information. But then the thing is this. People are just scattered. We cannot sit down and say Borno is well. Just recently, attacks have been happening in Chibok. Recently, we were there, and so many things have happened. Not only in Chibok, even Askeraoba and Madagali in Adamawa State, very close local governments, close to us. And in fact, even in Goza itself, it's still happening. That word Sambisa is, in fact, majority of that the forest reserve, Sambisa, is in Goza local government. So, even the Sambisa, they will just trek from Sambisa. They have their routes, tracks. From the Sambisa Game Reserve, they will just go up to the mountains. They have their people there. Whether it is arms, they'll carry it at night. Sometimes they attack in the afternoon. You cannot travel from Maiduguri now to Goza without escort from Pulka. Maiduguri to Pulka is okay, but then from Pulka to Goza, you have to have an escort. From Goza, if you want to go to Adamawa, to Limankara on the border there, you have to have an escort. So when you are talking of information, we can have information, but sometimes it's not going to be full information because people are afraid. People are running. Today you say you want to speak to somebody in Goza. The next day he has already left that place for one place or the other, scattered, going up and down, trying to visit his friends, or rather trying to visit his family in one local place in Taraba. So it's not a question of, it's not an office thing that you sit down and then you discuss things there. So it's something that is very, very serious. We want the government to actually come in. The local people are really trying their best, but how many are they there? How many are they there? Even during elections, we are told that we had so many, the population, but the population is not there. Is it on paper? The population is not there. So we have to be very, very sincere to our own selves. We have to be very sincere. Sincerity is very important. Don't be greedy and then you'll be telling somebody a different information because you want to have a lot of money in your purse. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. We have to be very, very realistic. We have to be very, very realistic in our lives. How long are we going to live? We want these things to be left to our children. If you don't have a house, you don't have a house.
Mr. Gabasa, we need to go to break, but when we return, having identified the problem, we'll talk solutions. Stay with us. Welcome back to Sunrise Daily. Well, yes, we've identified some of the challenges we're facing concerning security. We haven't taken the oath of office. Many, as we did highlight initially, they expect the authorities to, as we always say, hit the ground running. Well, let me get to Professor Gundu on this particular matter. Now, for those who think that First, in 2015, when the government came in, the president immediately made that trip to Lake Chad Basin Commission. There was this $100 million which was talked about, which was going to be donated to ensure that security in that region is improved. That's Nigeria's own contribution to the fund. And then $21 million was released at that time for that particular purpose. We've seen several other scenarios. Now we have the MNJTF for that particular area. We've had several operations recently, that of Puff Adder for the Abuja-Kaduna Expressway. We had several operations, including that of the civilian JTF. So when they say it's not for lack of effort, what must we do to ensure that we address this problem from the root cause?
Well, there are several issues I would suggest. First, if we have to go to the roots, the first thing we have to do is to discuss amongst ourselves how this country can be restructured. Because when you restructure this country, you will completely do away with some of the grievances which people have. So when you do away with the grudges people have, there will be less tension in the land. For example, if you restructure this country, there will be room for something like the state police. And every single Nigerian knows that if there is a state police, this country and the citizens of this country will be secured better than what we are doing at the moment. If we restructure this country, what we do with oil money, what we do with solid minerals money, would be more meaningful to the citizens of this country. So we are going to have less tension in the land than what we are having at the moment. Then, of course, when you restructure, it means that you are going to pay more attention to the security and property and lives of the people. Then, of course, we have to regulate certain business activities. We talked about pastoralism, and a lot of people do not know
Professor
the
Gundu,
link
pardon me. Let me follow up.
in this.
Let me follow up on the previous point before we move on to this next one about regulating businesses. When you talk about restructuring, now we know that in the last two conferences, national conferences that I've held, they couldn't agree on what to do with controlling resources. How do you see us scaling that particular hurdle if we need to restructure, which doesn't mean the same thing to everybody in the first place?
Well, yeah, if we are sincere to ourselves, there is no problem that we cannot sit down together and resolve. If we are sincere, I think the issue has to do with sincerity. And the issue has to do with how that conference, particularly the last one, how the people emerged from there. I think we were not sincere with each other. The truth of the matter is that there are people in this country who feel that we can have a religious state. I think we should also bring those type of people to the table. If people feel that they can turn parts of this country into an Islamic region, an Islamic caliphate, an Islamic country, let us discuss with them. There are people who hold on to religion and say they don't recognize the constitution of this country. They don't recognize a government. They don't recognize the federal government. They don't recognize a secular state. Let us talk to these people. And for me, it would be much, much better to allow them to carve out a country they want for their own, for religious reasons, instead of spilling the type of blood we are spilling in the name of keeping a country which every other person knows is not sustainable. So we have to be sincere with ourselves. I think it was lack of sincerity that made it impossible for us to arrive at any conclusion. And it is the lack of sincerity that is making it impossible for even government to look every Nigerian in the face and to say that, look, let us come together and decide on certain things. Let me go back to the issue of regulation now. There is nobody who does not know that in a modern state where there is personal property, in a modern state where there are recognized boundaries and territories and territorial jurisdictions, business cannot be regulated, especially if your business is the business of moving with large herds of animals across boundaries, national and state boundaries. No person can allow that. No one on earth can allow that. It's bad business and it should not be allowed. And no person should deceive us that we can allow any group of people to be moving about with cows hundreds of kilometers across boundaries and then expect that there will be peace. There will be no peace.
So,
in the first place,
Professor Gundu, while we attempt to do that, one example, recent one at that, is that of Benue. They tried to regulate that as well, but we saw what transpired there. So how do we avoid that scenario if we were to go the same way?
Benue is the best example of how this country must move towards the issue of grazing. Open grazing is bad for everybody. And what is important for all of us is that if you have herds of cattle, you should learn to put them in one place. We cannot allow cattle to be moving from one country to the other at the will of herdsmen. It is not possible. What these herdsmen are saying is that there is an ECOWAS protocol on free movement, which we signed on to about 1979. And then there is an ECOWAS protocol on transhumance movement, which we signed on about, I think, 1998. But that is where it stops. The protocol does not say that people should move in with cows even at the expense of national security. The protocol does not say that people should move in with cows even if this is going to destabilize destination countries. In fact, what the protocol says, and it tries to integrate, which is not a very bad thing, it tries to integrate the people of this sub-region. But what it says is that before you move into another country, you must be properly certified. The carrying capacity of where you are going must also be established so that you don't choke any particular place. It is also saying that the identities of the people coming with the livestock must also be established. It is also saying that the owners of this livestock must also be established. In this particular case, people just move about. No person knows how many there are. No person knows the number of their heads. No person knows what arms they are carrying. And we are not in a position to track anybody. And these are the people who are causing problems.
Okay, Professor Gundu, thank you. Let me take this to Mr. Gabasa. You expressed a lot of frustration the other time in that the people are tired and they're afraid and all of that. But what do you think the traditional institution and religious leaders have done, are doing, or can do to help galvanize the people for peace and peaceful coexistence in your environment?
Thank you for that question. Our traditional rulers and our leaders, local leaders, are there, but then let me just draw us back a little. When Boko Haram started, it started killing police, soldiers, all the military, anything security. They don't want them at all. Gradually, it came down to the Southerners. Eventually, it came down to Christians. And people had to run away. In my local government, people had to run away. But then that was not the end of the day. The whole thing became a problem. Everybody was affected. The traditional rulers who are living in Maiduguri, most of them are living in Maiduguri, they listen to what the government tells them. Do this, and that is all. Even our traditional ruler of Goza is in Maiduguri. He's not in Goza, he just goes there and comes back. But the thing is that, how can you have a very solid meeting, a very convincing meeting, when you are not in your own place? It doesn't make sense. Okay, the traditional ruler now in Maiduguri, he is a Muslim. When he goes out to for Juma prayers, he is not allowed, because he is in someone's land, he is not allowed to even have their local dogari, this flute, the band. He has a personal band, but they cannot do anything because it's not in his own land. What the solutions to all these things is this. Thank God we have a new governor now. And thank God that governor was a commissioner in the former government. And he was a commissioner for resettlement, reconstruction, and rehabilitation. They started work. They started resettling, they started reconstructing some houses. Somewhere along the line, it didn't just stop. It just stopped, and that was all. Where is the money that was earmarked for that one? Nobody says anything. And that is how it is. And that's the sort of life we don't like this sort of a thing to continue. Being the commissioner for RRR, Reconstruction, Rehabilitation, and Resettlement, now a governor, our prayer now is this, that they should be able to resettle people in their various locations. Resettle them peacefully, give them places that they can do their farm work, farming activities, and let there be peace. And he has also to remind the security men that they have to double up. It's not only going down to you have aircrafts and then you go to Lekchad area, drop 1 or 2 bombs, and start showing us in the evening on television that this is what has happened. Yes, we have seen that one, but it's not enough. Even the people in southern Borno, nobody is talking about that one. The attacks that has been happening in Chibok, the attacks that have been happening in Damboa, the attacks that have been happening in Madagali, in Adamawa State, and then in Lassa, all these things are there. But then we want a situation where flush these people out, resettle our people. Resettle our people. In fact,
one more thing, Mr. Gabasa. How do we get residents or indigents who live in the area who are sympathetic to Boko Haram and the likes of it? How do we get them to renounce?
That's a big question. In fact, that's a very big question. The thing is that if their language, their body language sometimes shows. So you have to be there. You cannot just come from a different place and say this man is a Boko Haram. You don't know him. He doesn't know you. So many of them are living, and we are made to understand some of them came that they have repented. People that have taken blood cannot repent. They can't repent. These ones are just to tell us that nothing is happening. And the same people, they are there, and you cannot do anything about it. When you touch them, how can you touch this person? He's already repented. But how do we catch criminals? Because there has to be sincerity. There has to be sincerity. Because if you want to do something, you have to do it very, very well. So that next time someone will say, Kai, I cannot do it again, or look at what has happened to Mr. A or Mr. B. But importantly is the government has to come in. The local people are ready to go and stay. But then some of these informations are telling me, so how do you know this man is a Boko Haram man? Some of them have bad records. They have been arrested, and they have been told to go, and they have gone, and they are within the society. So how? And there are so many of them.
But Mr. Gabasa, the several reports, several attempts, even by our correspondents, when they were speaking to the military authorities who said that, yes, they had rehabilitated those members of Boko Haram who have renounced, they trained them, they've taken them back to society. The army authorities on ground there usually tell our correspondents that citizens, residents, traditional rulers, they are all usually involved in the process. So isn't there any truth to those comments that they make?
Okay, let me give you one example. In Gombe, there were some terrorists that were arrested and they were rehabilitated in Gombe. When they came to Maiduguri, and now from Maiduguri they were taken to Goza. The Goza people say, no, they don't need this sort of people. They are very bad people. They are criminals. They are terrorists. Please take them away from us. Allow such people. And then they were taken quickly back. They were quickly taken back to Maiduguri. If they were brought back to Goza, definitely they would, in fact, there would have been a fight, because some of them have relatives. They know the people that killed their relatives. This is the man that killed our father. This is the man that killed our brother. This is the man that wiped our whole family. And you see him there going up and down. You think somebody will allow him to stay? Nobody. So the most important thing now is that we have to make sure there is a reconciliation. Very, very important. The local people, the traditional rulers, the government, the police, there has to be a reconciliation, not of deceit. Not of deceit. Form a reconciliation committee and you go up and down. Then just collecting money.
All right, Mr. Gabasa. We'll anchor at that point. Mr. Ambrose Gabasa is the Goza indigene, and we also have had Professor Zachariah Gundu, who is of the Department of Archaeology, Ahmadu Bello University in Zaria. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us today on the program. All right, so we'll be back in a moment. Well, we're still taking a look and trying to set agenda for the incoming government, but we'll do that when we come back in a moment. Stay with us.